Good evening, Bahamas. You're tuned into NB12, broadcasting from Cable 12 Studios in Robinson Road. Coming up tonight in news, health officials confirm a case of cholera in Sandy's wake. The Prime Minister continues his tour of the Family Islands impacted by the storm. It will get cooler this week, according to forecasters, plus why you should pay attention to the United States presidential election next week. We've got those stories and so much more coming up. I'm Paige McCartney, and NB12 starts right now. Once again to NB12. Prime Minister Christie continuing his tour of storm-ravaged islands today, stopping on Eleuthera to assess the damage there. Yesterday he was on Abaco. It was the fourth stop on his assessment tour after Hurricane Sandy raged through the archipelago. The storm also brought attention to poor living conditions in shanty towns after one case of cholera was confirmed in another Haitian village. Nakia DeVoe reports.
Prime Minister Christie recently expressed concern about the large number of illegal immigrants here in Abaco and the many Haitian communities like this one here in Treasure Key. The Prime Minister visited the Haitian Bahamian community Sandbanks yesterday to see the living conditions for himself and also to assess the damage after Sandy blew through Abaco. He spoke with several residents there. They took Christie, the media, the health minister, and NEMA officials into their homes to show them the poor living conditions. Residents told the Prime Minister that there was no plumbing in any of the homes. He also talked about the health concerns after it was confirmed that a resident of New Providence had cholera. Residents told the Prime Minister that the sewage gets into their homes when the area floods. He said there is no way that people, especially young children, should be living in filth.
And it's been a vexing matter for this country. Places like the Mud, Pigeon Pea, Sandbanks, centers of immigrants who are living in challenged circumstances. And I can tell you that there's every reason in a country like the Bahamas, from a public health point of view, where we must always be vigilant and always ensure that we're taking the right steps to help people live in the right way.
We were told that the Mud and Pigeon Pea shanty towns in Marsh Harbor, Abaco were also flooded during the storm. Christie said the homes are obviously not safe, especially not during a tropical storm or hurricane. But those villages were not the only areas affected. The storm hovered over that island for about 36 hours, bringing with it heavy winds and storm surges as high as 6 feet. The surges were strong enough to push Ronald Russell's fishing vessel onto land.
It's a little setback. We got about 2 weeks setback, and we're going to get back on it. As soon as we get this boat back out in the water, we're going to regroup and go back to preparing the boat. And in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, we should be back out there fishing.
In a island nation like this, is trying to catch up and then anticipate these things by proper planning. So the learning experience today is that this kind of thing can happen, and that fishermen who have their boats to be protected, we must actually think through before hurricane season how we're going to go about protecting the boats, where we're going to do it, and so that these things are anticipated and planned for, so that my brother here don't have to pay this extra money to do this.
Garnell Pinder described how the street in Foxtown was completely underwater, and the surges were so intense that boats from the nearby dock ended up in her yard. She recorded the scene from her home on top of a hill. Her neighbors weren't so lucky.
The houses on the other side of the road was like under, the water was all the way to the window. And you had people trying to bail water out of their house during the storm. And so, you know.
And so I'm assuming there's a dock there where the boats came from. What condition is that in now?
Well, it's not there anymore. Actually, no dock really is in place around here right now.
They want the dock up and running, repaired as soon as possible, so they can have access to go out and back and forth, out fishing.
The Foxtown government dock was destroyed. Curry says many residents in the area are fishermen and will be without work until the dock is repaired. The owner of M&M Food Store, Value Restaurant and Bar also lost his dock. He He serves as a popular spot to eat and refuel for West Palm Beach visitors and local fishermen. He says it will take about $20,000 to repair the dock. Money he doesn't have.
We're losing a lot of tourists. We can't fuel up the fishermen, and 80% of the community comes here for fuel, so nobody can get fuel right now. The last hurricane, it took me until this hurricane, I wasn't completed this hurricane. So just telling you, it takes us over a year to get it going.
And as was the case in other islands, farmers on Abaco lost almost everything. Reverend Stephen Knowles' 10-acre farm in Murphytown was underwater and several animals drowned.
My loss is more than I can actually tell, because up until this point, I've only been able to go so far on the farm, which still has a lot of water on it. When I made the initial check on the farm, I realized that, for instance, one of the areas I just had some young piglets born. They were just under a month, 36 of them, and they all perished.
Christie promised that the government will move to repair docks in Abaco immediately and look at ways to assist farmers in securing at least their livestock before a storm. Christie also said that government has to give NEMA more support. The Prime Minister and his assessment team traveled to Sandy Point, Abaco, and Eleuthera today. Reporting for NB12, I'm Nakia DeVoe.
Well, yesterday, the government received a $200,000 grant from the Caribbean Development Bank to assist with restorative efforts following Hurricane Sandy that traveled up the island chain, causing damage to several islands. But while Prime Minister Perry Christie acknowledged that it's a significant amount of money, he said it still won't be enough to cover the bill.
The country will have to spend significantly more than that to offset the damages that have taken place. I mean, the infrastructural damage, that's a profound expenditure, in the sense that the impacts were strong. Roads have to be rebuilt, docks have to be rebuilt, personal losses of people,
But Christie revealed that the country has access to more money from the bank if it chooses to accept it. Christie met with CDB officials yesterday morning before leaving for Abaco. The bank has also offered to finance a loan for much more money. However, the Prime Minister didn't reveal the amount.
Financing of some significance, a much more significant sum of money by way of a loan, preferential kind of loan that we could use as a country if we so desire to mitigate the impacts, that is, using it in some way to make things better for the people of the different communities that have been impacted.
And Christie said it's already difficult to budget for several different islands, and when a storm hits the Bahamas, they have to turn the budget inside out to assist all those who need help. Officials say it could be weeks before they know what the total cost of the damage is. Well, even though Hurricane Sandy is long gone, the Bahamas is still feeling the after effects of the storm. Celeste Nixon has details.
The sudden cold snap and heavy winds experienced throughout the Bahamas over the last 24 hours are no mere coincidence, according to officials here at the Met Department at LPIA. Forecasters say Sandy was one of the most unique storms in history and is not quite done with the country yet.
Forecaster Wayne Neely said Sandy, which is now hammering the northeastern United States, has had a lasting impact on the archipelago. Today, he explained why the temperatures dropped in the wake of the storm.
This associated with you had three weather factors into play, right? We had the jet stream that dipped extremely low down over the southern United States. That brought in cold polar air from the polar region, and we also had a cold front that passed as well, and then you had the effects of Hurricane Sandy.
Neely said Sandy was one of the largest storms on record, with tropical force winds extending up to 450 miles from its center. He explained where Sandy was today.
Sandy right now is being absorbed by a northeaster, what they call a northeaster in the United States. And that's getting energy from the tropics and from the mid-latitudes. And that was made it particularly very strong and very unique.
And is the size of the storm, it looks like it's taking out?
It's huge. Yeah, most of the eastern seaboard, as you can see, most of the eastern seaboard is covered by this storm. And it's an extremely large storm, and for us here in the Bahamas, we had moderate damage from this storm.
According to Neely, Sandy has been downgraded to a post-tropical cyclone and should dissipate shortly.
The National Hurricane Center at 11 issued the last warning on Sandy, so Sandy should be absorbed. Right now it's absorbed into a northeaster, and it's now what we call a post-tropical cyclone, which basically means that it has lost all its tropical characteristics and it's now taking on the characteristics of a mid-latitude cyclone.
Most forecasters agree that warmer temperatures will return for sure by the weekend. So while you should bundle up over the next day or two, it might be too soon to break out the heavy winter gear. Roll out.
Though currently there are no storms on the horizon, there's still 1 month left in this hurricane season. Reporting for NB12, I'm Celeste Nixon.